it'd be really cool to live in Manhattan and be super close to school and just like, wander into Washington Park. Like, no big deal. And I think that would be amazing, but also rent. And I mean, it just depends. So I also would love to be in Queens in a few different neighborhoods, Brooklyn too. I'm just going to see what happens. Yeah, roll the dice on the next. We're subletting so that we don't have to buy like a whole set of things.
Right. And
just kind of treat this as a, like a long-term but temporary stay. And if that changes, then obviously we get an apartment. But just kind of seeing what happens.
Yeah.
But New York is, right now I live by what was formerly Ebbets Field, where the Brooklyn Dodgers played.
Okay.
Which is like legendary. And I'm from the West Coast, or from the West, and knowing the LA Dodgers and learning the story of the Brooklyn Dodgers are literally like across the street from where I live now. It's now giant apartment buildings, which is kind of devastating, but is also what the New York story is. It's constantly like renovating on top of itself.
Oh, you have to read a book. Are you into fiction or historical fiction?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a book called Forever, and it's by Pete Hamill, who used to be an editor for the New York Post, I believe. And it's fiction, but it's historical fiction, and it's all, it goes back into the 16 or maybe 1700s of the island, of Manhattan. So it's great. There's a lot of really cool history in there, and it's
so cool. Yeah, I literally just want to deep dive into everything New York while I'm here.
Totally.
And have basically my program be the vessel to do that, and just learn all that I can, because it's so amazing.
If you were to fast forward, I want to say 5 years, but maybe we just don't put a time on it. Okay, so let's just knowing who you are now, so cause anything could be possible, right? You said you could be in Brooklyn forever, or maybe another 5 years. Who knows, right? But who you are now, what your wants and dreams are right now, and somewhere in the future, like where are you in the world? What is it you're doing, like in your dreamiest situation?
Well, being here in New York versus in Portland's kind of remote in terms of getting to other places in the world. So I am pretty desperate to get to two places, pretty much the whole of Italy, because I'd love to study Amari and learn processes from these different houses from top to bottom in the country. So one of my favorites there's so many, but one of my favorites is Maletti, and I can't remember what part of Italy it's from, but it's just like this fascinating experience of almost like cologne and herbs and just this delicious bomb. And I want to learn how to make something like that. I have worked on projects like that, but I haven't gotten to that level. And of course, a lot of them are at a commercial level, and we're talking about glycerin and additives that kind of seal the deal, but they're not necessarily natural in what I would want to add. But I want to go study basically those sorts of spirits. So going to Italy for quite some time just to learn under some masters there. I do this thing where I like to just reach out to people, send emails or Instagram messages or whatever it is. And if they respond, cool. If they don't, whatever.
Yeah.
And the other day I saw this German company that's making really interesting digestives, and so I messaged him and was like, hey, do you take interns? Because I would love to come work on something with you, learn from you. And I haven't heard anything, but that's okay. So Germany, anywhere, learning from another master.
Right.
Because what I see myself doing, and this kind of has changed even in the last couple of days, I would love to have my own distillery. I have a still that's in Oaxaca and being used, which is amazing. But I would like to have my own facility where I'm making digestives for not just for imbibing, but for actually healing. Because all of the spirits, gin was medicine. Bitters are medicine. All of this is medicine, and it's kind of like morphed into this, you know, like cocktail scene that we have, and I want to bring it back to medicine. And especially with the food studies program that I'm in, just the relation of food and body and emotions, like basically like mind, gut, and what goes into all of that and how it makes us feel. Like, I guess it all leads back to emotions.
Right.
And I want to create, don't know what it is yet, but I want to create some sort of system or some kind of product or some kind of line, I don't know, that helps with all of the, like, mind, body, emotions. And I don't know, I've called it like eating or drinking intuitively or healing.
I mean, it sounds like something that, so generally speaking, you know, and maybe, again, sometimes I forget that I live in a bubble and I live in an area where that type of thing is a thing.
Exactly.
And it's very important to people, especially at my age, the people that I surround myself with. And I think it just makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like kind of, we go through these ebbs and flows, or like, you know, culture swings, right? Where it feels like we're getting back to a point where people just want to be healthy and they want to kind of get to a foundational level, and they want to experience things but each other as well. I mean, and what a great place to be able to learn that type of thing. Also, like in Italy, for example, I've been to Italy so many times. I used to work with an Italian company, and I've been to all of the regions.
Cool.
And it was amazing. And to be able to be like, just to witness the culture and the way they navigate through life, their days, is just, I'm so envious. And it's a lot of the reason why I love when I go to Mexico or when I go to Spain, or I like to go to the villages. I like to experience the culture. I went this time last year, actually, literally this week last year, I flew to Sayulita, and I went by myself, and I needed a break. I hadn't slept in like a year. I didn't anticipate that it was going to be very touristy. I guess I just didn't really do a lot of research. I didn't know where I wanted to go. Somebody's like, go to Sayulita, and I was like, okay, booked. But when I got there, and funny, talking about Portland, the first night I was there, I met a group of 15 people from Portland.
From Portland. It's like Portland's hub.
I was like, what is happening? So the next day I got up, I went to a local establishment, and I asked the proprietor, I was like, just tell me where I can spend my days, my time, and I'm not surrounded by the people that I live with every day, because not because I don't want to be with Americans, it's because I want to experience another culture, and I want it to be most likely a slower, more traditional way of living. And that feels good, like what you're talking about doing. It's like bring it back down to like how your health and your wellness and your experience is on a foundational level.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Like the same, you know, like where you live or where I lived in Portland before, it was like, yeah, that's like a way of life. That's kind of normal. And then living in Oaxaca and previously in Peru in the Sacred Valley, I got into doing a lot of temazcal. And I also was eating straight from the farm that I worked on, and was noticing this entire energy shift and the relationship of eating and my body and my thoughts and my emotions and my energy and my outlook and perspective. And I was able to keep that up a lot, even going between the Sacred Valley of Peru and Oaxaca. They're very similar energies in that way, and you have access to really similar like healing and food, fresh food. And moving to New York has been a jolt to my system because it's kind of the opposite. Food is hard here.
I have to say, maybe she needs to be a part of your co-op, Catherine.
Yes, co-op.
Like, are you a part of one right now?
No.
Okay, apparently she's got
really
the best one on
be.
the planet.
Which
so
one
you
is
guys
it?
need to connect.
Okay, yeah, I've definitely heard about it.
Okay.
Amazing, yes.
17,000 members. So much local food.
Amazing.
You guys,
I
you
want
really
that.
need to know each other.
Yeah.
Here I am making love connections.
I
again.
love it.
The people connections.
Yeah, because it's real. Like here in New York, obviously, I went into the Empire State. I went up on top of the Empire State Building for the first time on Sunday, and looking down on Manhattan, it's like every square inch is a building. It looks like a Lego city. Like it's literally,
really does.
of course, it's very different than Oaxaca. Like Oaxaca is the breadbasket of Mexico. Even when I was traveling between Oaxaca and Jalisco, I struggled in Jalisco because the food is so fresh in Oaxaca and it's not as in Jalisco. And there's more fried offerings, and I was like, take me back to Oaxaca where we can eat fresher. And I had my home, and I cook, and all of those things.
Do you write? I mean, I know you write on, so your writing on social media is really great. But do you write outside of that?
Not really. I have a blog, but I did one post and I haven't kept up.
I mean, you are very busy. You have a lot of projects happening right now, but you also have a really great perspective. And it's a good combination of like, you know, local, meaning, you know, American information and culture, but you've experienced so many parts of the world and you have a beautiful way of speaking about it. So
thank you.
if you're just, you know, have an extra few minutes a day, you should write some more.
I
about
know.
that.
I really need to get into practice with writing in general, because being in grad school, I just starting this semester, I was like, wait, write a paper? I haven't written a paper for so long. And my first two were like, it was devastating how slow I was.
Yeah.
Like,
even if you did 10 minutes, I'm not going to say less than 10
just
minutes,
like
but set your timer, for 10 minutes and write. Or even, I don't know if you've ever heard of The Artist's Way, which is a book by, I think her name is, oh God, I can't believe I forgot her name. I'm embarrassed. Anyway, you can just Google The Artist's Way. But there's a practice you can do where you free write for 3 pages. And you just write and write and write. You don't lift the pen. You just keep going. And it starts out and it's clunky. And you can literally start out with like, I am writing for 3 pages and this is killing me. I'm writing for 3 pages and it's killing me. And eventually it kind of starts free flowing. But what it could help you with is just dropping in quickly.
Yeah.
So it's not about like the content as much as like you need to be able to transition from like here to the writing quickly and easily, and that'll help you with your papers as well.
Yeah, I have a
Take my
really
coaching hat off.
That was great coaching, by the way, because I definitely struggle with that. I sit in front of the screen, I'm like, what am I going to say?
Yeah, where do
How
I
am I going to
start?
say it? How do I begin?
Also, Brene Brown always talks about like that first shitty draft. Like just start writing and just write the first crappy thing that comes out, and then eventually something more comes out.
Exactly.
Okay, so these drinks are great. I can't wait I'm dying. One day recently, I was with a friend and he was having we were both having Manhattans, and he put his glass away and he didn't eat the cherry.
No.
And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you're done and you're not going to eat the cherry?
I sometimes get personally offended by that. Like, I worked an event on Wednesday. I made cocktails, and I created these cocktails so when people would come up and be like, which one's the best one? Which one do you like the best? I'm like, well, I made them all, so they're all delicious. And people are like, you're the worst. But I created these garnishes, like specifically one garnish that went on a non-alcoholic drink. And I was working with products, like local products from here in New York. And one of them was herbs. I can't remember what company it was, but they supplied me basil, cilantro, and a wasabi arugula. It was literally the most delicious thing I've ever tried.
Oh, like, really?
They somehow created a wasabi arugula.
Wow.
So I had these little pins, and I was clipping wasabi arugula to people's glasses and explaining what it was. And when I would get a glass that came back to me, I'm like,
you didn't eat that.
How are you not going to eat that?
Yeah, I know, I'll be the first to say that there is an etiquette behind, you know, being a good bar patron, or, you know, like, and when you're like me, who just literally is used to drinking a glass of wine, and I know I can understand how to be a good wine drinker. I need people to take me. She took me in New York, actually. Catherine, one time we went beer tasting.
Nice.
And we went to bars and drank beer, basically. Yeah. But I was like, you know, she's explaining to me, and I still have the note, and I used it recently. I went to a fundraiser at Lagunitas in Petaluma, And I'm like, I don't know what kind of beer I like. And so I pulled out my note from that day and I was like, okay, I like this kind of beer and ales and not IPAs and blah, 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 blah. And so I gave the guy, and the guy laughs at me and he's like, it's so cute that you have notes. Like, so I'm like, okay.
Especially at Lagunitas.